This is really the heart of everything. You know, the whole section on Hinduism, these 4 yogas, it's such an important part. And I want you to make sure you understand these 4 yogas. And of course, Raja Yoga is taking the longest because it comes in 8 parts. So just to keep you on the map, what we're doing. So I'll continue then. I was asked yesterday about that aspect of the yogic life which is connected up with work, labor. Asceticism was the word we used yesterday. The ascetic yogic life, which is a life of hardship from our way of thinking, right? The ascetic life is one of hardship. Remember what it means to live an ascetic life. You're withdrawing, you're renouncing, you're giving up, you're doing without. It takes great willpower, great discipline. You're going without, you're restraining, right? Well, guess what? The niyamas doesn't only include this idea of purity. It includes what the yogas call, or the yogis, tapas. I'm not talking about little Spanish appetizers here. Tapas. It has to do with heat. It has to do with discipline. And of course, when we hear the word discipline, you know, we think of visions of strict private schools getting hit with rulers or something like that. But you know what I love to do? I love to look at the words. Discipline, disciple, to learn. A discipline is to put yourself in a mental state of openness where you can learn. You're a student. You're learning and growing. And if you're not a student, then you can't grow because you're closed at that moment. You're saying to the world, I already know, right? And so you've just stopped all growth. So to practice a discipline is really to be open in a very real sense. And so tapas suggests certain hardships that the yogis are sometimes known for, but it's, unless they're showing off, you know, they've got their own ego problems, there's a more profound reason why you would want to put yourself through certain ascetic practices. Because you're overcoming habits that keep you in the world of addictions and that keep you from a world of freedom. I'm going to pick up my book again. I've got a note to myself to go to page 219. Let me quickly go there and see. Perfect control of feeling makes you king of yourself. Never be addicted to anything or bound by any habit. Drinking coffee doesn't necessarily mean you're a slave to it, but if you have to have your coffee, then that feeling has enslaved you. As soon as you say, no, I don't need it, let that be the end of your bondage. So it doesn't mean you have to stay away from certain things. You see, there's no objective aspect of something or another being a sin. It's not like that. It depends on whether or not you're enslaved by the thing. You know, maybe your particular tapas is to stay away from hatha yoga because you've become addicted to hatha yoga. So your particular prescription might be quite different than that guy's particular prescription. It depends on whether or not you're a slave. I've got another note to look at page 40. Let me see what's there. Tapas. The individual who lives all the time in an undisciplined manner is constantly filled with restlessness and worries. But he or she who has learned self-control knows the way to real happiness. Whenever you reason that you cannot do without something, you have become its slave. And the secret to happiness is to be master of yourself. Man's outer behavior reflects his inner life. External luxuries cannot make the soul happy. So it answers the question, well, gosh, aren't I supposed to have fun? But the yogis are saying, but that's not fun. That just keeps you enslaved. So that you're miserable every time you don't have the thing that you're addicted to. And you can't live your life without it. And it gets to a point that maybe you even have withdrawal symptoms. And everything else bores you because you've set yourself up to an expectation of such stimulation that you need to have that object of your desires. whether it's cigarettes or gambling or sugar or alcohol or whatever it is. Heck, people are addicted to their, their phones or their texting devices or their video games, whatever. So it's not that those things are bad. He's asking, well, do you have to have it? Are you one of those people that go, I can't, I'm miserable because I haven't had my coffee yet? Then it becomes something else. Then that's not happiness. Then you suffer without it. That's not joy. That's misery. Let's go on to the third step, shall we? Asana. Asana. That's the word everybody knows. Whenever anybody thinks of yoga, they're thinking of asana. That's just the physical poses and postures. Those are the postures. This one little step of this one yogic path is what has been imported to the United States, in particular Los Angeles, which is the mecca of yoga, the mecca of the entire world. More yoga practitioners in Los Angeles than all of India. Asana in Sanskrit just means seat, the seat that you sit on when you meditate, but it has come to reference all of the various poses that have developed through the centuries and that have become part of the physical part of yoga. Asana, the poses. So it means seat, but it has come to refer to all of the postures. So anytime you go to a yoga class and your teacher asks you to step into a warrior pose and put yourself in there and breathe, you're practicing asana. Asana. So much to say about asana, so misunderstood. People think it will give you a better body, a tighter body. Well, yes, but it's about so much more. Every time you're in asana and you're breathing, you're working with opposites. You're working with the energy of your body, the vital force in your body, the prana. Prana, the life force. It's like the Chinese qi. Have you heard the word qi? Like in the practice of Tai Chi, the Indian equivalent is prana. Prana. You're working with prana every time you're in asana. And the breath is what moves that prana, that life force through your body. It has everything to do with reconciling opposites. Because on one hand, every time you practice asana, you're practicing the active part of asana. You're pushing into it, you're breaking through obstacles, breaking through obstacles, pushing through. But there's also the passive aspect of it, because you're nourishing your body and you're allowing that oxygen to nourish your body, and you're resting within that pose. You're resting within the pose. You're settling within the pose. There's that passive aspect of it. And every time you settle into a pose, you resist the temptation to wiggle out of it, to rush out of it, to succumb to distraction, to restlessness, to boredom, to impatience, to discomfort. Every time you settle into a pose, you resist all of that. You're nurturing stillness, persistence, strength, stamina. So there's that passive aspect of it, but it's also active because you're pushing through. It is you that is putting yourself there. So you're not just relaxing. It's not just relaxing. Otherwise, go to a spa, right? You're not just relaxing. You're nourishing yourself. You're cultivating strength. You're releasing patterns. You're pushing through obstacles. You're releasing tension. So it is calming, but that tension is being released from your entire neuromuscular system as you settle into that pose. Really, the poses are just to prepare the body, though, for meditation, because the yogis understood that you won't be able to sit in posture for very long if your body has no push, no stamina, no flexibility.